welcome back to the latest episode of the Mavs and LUKA podcast. I'm your host, as always, Stephen Murphy. I'm joined again by Jonny Byrne from Atlantic Sports Podcast. Still on his break at the moment, but Johnny's generously decided to come on here and we can talk some hoops and some basketball. Johnny, how are you?
Good, Stephen. Thanks for having me on. I enjoyed being on the last time on, I guess, kind of different circumstances. There was a lot of uncertainty, I guess, around the return of the NBA the last time we spoke. And now, we've had pretty much the rest of the regular season is over. We're heading into the playoffs. So, yeah, different circumstances.
Yeah, 100%. It's just great to have basketball again back, isn't it? It's just... again, like we don't watch a lot of games live, obviously, because time difference and all that. But it's everything that comes with NBA. Like you wake up in the morning, you go on Instagram, you see all the highlights, you see the amazing dunks, the amazing play. It's the lifestyle around like watching NBA, which is just fantastic to have back. So I love that personally. But like we're going to talk obviously this evening, NBA basketball. So we'll talk kind of about the bubble, what we've liked so far, what we may not have liked, sort of the main storylines, and then obviously with the playoffs starting next Monday, we'll get kicked off into that and sort of the playoff picture as it stands and who we favour in the matchups, and obviously the play-in tournament now that's starting tomorrow, which is exciting. But yeah, like I think the first thing we have to say, Johnny, is credit to the NBA. They have done a fantastic job with this bubble, and I know compared to other sports like NFL, where you have a lot more teams and a lot more players on a roster, and the travel is more sort of sparse than it is in the NBA, but still they had a job to do. They were proactive with it, and they seem to have pulled it off.
Yeah, absolutely. There was incredible risk when this was first announced. I mean, a lot of people wanted a return of the season, but I think a lot of leagues, you think of some of like the soccer leagues in particular, just decided to suspend things. It just wasn't safe to bring things back. And especially in a country that's so ravaged by this virus, like in America, for them to come up with a solution to create this bubble. I know they've probably had some experts involved in it and stuff. It was genius in hindsight, really. Getting them to come quarantine for how many days, restrict their movements, but still give them enough freedom so that they, don't go mad in there. And I'm really surprised, Steve, that we haven't seen more stories of kind of tensions running high or players giving out about the bubble. Players have been really receptive of the environment they're in, and I think there's a number of factors that we can talk about as to what the NBA has done for them to kind of allow them to come back, especially not only given the virus but also given the kind of social injustices happening in America at the time. So yeah, I think credit has to be given to them. They've probably handled it as well as anyone could have expected, and the fact that we're over 10 days in a row now without any positive tests, I think has been fantastic.
Yeah, and like as you said there, like everyone bought in, which is obviously was a massive part of this. They don't, this doesn't go ahead if everyone is moving in the same direction. So credit to everyone involved, and as for us as NBA fans, thank God, they did it. If I was an NFL fan now, look, don't get me wrong, the NFL's going ahead because, like I said before, there's way too much money involved. But, college football in America, which is massive in America, looks like it's not going to go ahead. Baseball is all over the place, sort of, who knows what's going to happen with that. So, yeah, as NBA fans, I think we're pretty lucky. So, but yeah, look, as I said, there's been games on every evening. There's been plenty to get stuck into, but I think you'd agree with me in this. The main standout has been this competition for the 8th seed in the West. It has taken sort of a life of itself. And if you had said to anyone a few weeks ago or months ago or years ago that the Phoenix Suns would go 8-0 in any stretch of the imagination, I think no one would believe you. But for once, I see hope on the horizon for Phoenix fans. It's great.
Yeah, it is fantastic, and I think it's a great place to start because, like, when you think of what the season would have been like at this point if it had gone on as normal, I kind of dislike the last kind of 10 to 15 games of the season because a lot of teams kind of know where they are in the playoff picture, and there's a lot of tanking goes on then with the lower teams. So the intensity is very, very low, and a lot of the top teams, the likes of the Lakers or the Clippers, for example, will be fielding, second string teams down the stretch just to try and rest their players before the playoffs. But having this kind of play-in tournament and having these couple of teams kind of fight for their life as such has really brought the intensity to these last couple of regular season games. And I think it was something I wasn't that big of a fan of. I was kind of thinking, look, what's the really point? Because the 8th seed never really goes anywhere anyway. But from what we've seen from, like you mentioned, Phoenix and Portland, they've really raised the bar in terms of the intensity played in these games. And it's such a pity, I guess, for Phoenix to bow out after going 8-0, the best team in the bubble, arguably the MVP in the bubble in Devin Booker, and it's still not enough for them to get in. I'm sure that won't sit well with them, but you have to think positive things when thinking about the future of the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, for once, they have a really decent team. Like, you have Devin Booker, who's obviously one of the best players in the world right now. You still have, which I forgot they actually signed, and Dario Saric, who's a really good player to have on a team, like especially in modern day NBA. You have DeAndre Ayton, who's up and coming center, who's starting to shoot more threes now, which is what you need to be doing these days. And Ricky Rubio at the point. Like, you have decent caliber NBA players for once on this squad. They can only take. I know they're going to be disappointed, obviously, to miss this, and people are giving out that they went 8-0 and still didn't make it. But they obviously be better in the other part of the season, and then you wouldn't have had this issue. But finally hope. But I personally wanted to see them and Portland play off. No disrespect to the Grizzlies, but the Grizzlies are they're very jaw heavy, which I understand, and that's that's their game plan. But I think we all wanted to see Devin Booker and Damian Lillard just basically both have 50 points and see who comes out on top for possibly 3 games.
Well, I think they were the 2 front runners. The NBA announced they were given some sort of I don't know what the kind of end of regular season awards for the games that they have played since they've returned to the bubble, kind of bubble awards.
Yeah.
And Devin Booker and Damian Lillard were the 2 front runners, I think, in terms of the bubble MVP as such. But the Grizzlies kind of come into this last stretch of the regular season with the best odds of making the playoffs. Yeah. So it was going to be difficult for them to fall out of this kind of playing bracket. And the Portland, I guess you could argue, out of all the teams that were left, San Antonio, the Kings, all the teams that were left, that they were probably the most talented, and obviously had made the Western Conference Finals last year, which a lot of people forget. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, but I'm sure Damian Lillard has made a lot of noise so far in the regular season, and I'm sure he won't go out without a fight in these playing games. Yeah,
I think you have to give to Lillard if you're going to have a bubble MVP. I think you just Booker's been amazing, don't get me wrong, but Lillard's 50, 60, and 40 in the last 3 games, single-handedly, and all because of Pat Beverly on the bench mocking him after 2. And in fairness, now, Lillard did absolutely bottle those 2 free throws. I was actually watching that game live, and I was shocked when he missed both those free throws. I couldn't get over it. The commentator curse, as always, right before he shot them, they were like, Lillard's been 88% from the line this season, and then of course 2 clangers off the fucking rim. But since then, he's just been on an absolute rampage. Just don't piss off Damian Lillard, I think, is basically what we learned from this.
Absolutely. I want to ask you a question for you in terms of, you said you watch a game live there, and I've watched, I think I've only watched a handful of games live, or caught some certain quarters, like you mentioned, with the time difference, it can be difficult. It's a little bit more favourable now with the fact that some games start around 4 or 5 o'clock our time, which is great. Yeah. But again, then other people have work and other commitments. But what's your thoughts on the broadcast as a such, in terms of the fans at home, the commentators, the kind of arena music? How have you found the broadcast?
I found it actually fine in regards. The only time I found it really off-putting is late game moments or big moments in the game where someone has a big dunk or someone hits a big shot late on. There's no reaction. There's no crowd noise. That's a tad weird, because you feel like in the moment you're like that moment should have got a massive noise from a fans or a full stadium, which it doesn't. But in regards to normal play, I actually kind of like hearing the players. There was a great moment yesterday, actually. I seen there's a highlight of it, but Damian Lillard shoots a ridiculous 3, And you can hear someone, I don't know if it's from the opposition team or the bench or the coaching staff, but they're like, "Oh my God!" Like they're just like so pissed off that he's just making his shots. And you don't hear that if there's a full crowd. Like, you know what I mean? So there's parts that I tell you, it's been fairly seamless in that regards. But then the big moments, like especially now in the playoffs, if you come down to a game 7 and stuff like that, you're really going to miss an atmosphere or a crowd like that. But I find it okay so far. What about yourself?
Yeah, I think they've made the most with whatever resources they've had, to be honest, because like it's going to be incredibly hard to recreate the end of game moments, and of course, you know, you can always do better in these situations, but for what they have, you know, bringing in the virtual fans, I think was a unique thing that I hadn't seen in any other sports. A lot of like the Premier League, for example, had kind of cardboard cutouts and stuff in the stands, which I think pales in comparison to what they've done here. So
yeah, it's more of a 1990s solution than a 2020
yeah,
solution.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah. But it's
those
great because you
screens
can.
that
Yeah, no, it's fantastic because being able to see certain family members of players join in on the Zoom, I guess, or in the crowd, and I've seen Shaquille O'Neal pop up in 2 or 3
yeah,
games as well, make cameo
yeah.
appearances, which has been gas. So yeah, you have to. It's been pretty similar, I guess, to a live experience, but as you mentioned, yeah, you know, you just can't replace it.
Yeah, 100%. But again, yeah, you're right. With what they have, they've done pretty well. But I think
Sure.
it's interesting now at the playoffs because I think I think it definitely impacts players. Like LeBron made a good point. Like he hasn't played without a crowd since he was probably like 12 maybe, and even then probably had a crowd. So I'm sure it does. I'm sure players, use that atmosphere for energy and for motivation. So it'd be interesting to see. That's why I think like we're going to go through the playoff matches later on, but nothing would surprise me in these playoff matches. Like upsets, I think are going to happen because the fact, like home advantage is gone. There is no home and away anymore. It's all in Orlando. So I think everything's up for grabs here, and I'm really looking forward to it. But I think as well, like another major talking point from this is sort of the Lakers and the Clippers. I say struggling, but definitely not playing to their potential. And the Lakers, I can see, obviously, once they grabbed that 1 seed and it wasn't in question anymore, definitely took the foot off the gas. But even before that, they were like one of the lowest teams when it came to offensive rating. And the Clippers definitely a couple of surprise losses, and they should have lost that Blazers game too. What do you think? Kind of what's causing that? Do you think?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I think even you look in the Eastern Conference and the Bucks, I think they have something like a 3-7 record or something for these 10 games or whatever. So it's funny to see some of these kind of top teams underperform as such coming back into the fold. But I don't think I'd be too worried about it. I think with the Clippers, I guess you can kind of view them in a separate light. The Clippers had the whole thing with Lou Williams, going out for wings and the selfie being taken, and that absolute rat posting it to social media, which I'd be very annoyed if I was Lou Williams. But he's barely played any decent minutes in the end of this regular season. They've missed Montrezl Harrell as well. They've also rested Kawhi as much as they would have during the regular season. They've actually applied loads management to him coming back in a lot of games. He's rested too. So, I mean, they haven't had the full strength of their roster. The Clippers, as regards the Lakers, then we haven't really seen the best of LeBron either. His statistics haven't really been up to scratch with what he has been doing in the regular season. And they've a number of kind of new faces as well that they're kind of have to try and blend into the team, like Dion Waiters, who's been putting up a decent minutes coming off the bench. They have to try and integrate him. And I really think it's just a case of the weirdness of returning after so many months off that we kind of have to reserve the right to say that these teams are going to be a bit different to what we've seen them in February or March, and that's the reality of it.
Yeah, I think LeBron does have that switch where he can, he's one of the few players that can just flick it on, and he's LeBron again. But it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, like the Kawhi and like PG has looked good, in this bubble, but they still have that. I don't know. I feel like the Clippers have that sort of like Dwayne Wade in Miami with LeBron. Like who's the guy? Like late game, who's the ball going to? Like Miami struggle in 2011 because of that. You need to after that, then it became LeBron's team, and they went on to win 2 championships. You need to define. Unfortunately, in NBA, it's just one of those sports that you need to define who's the guy, like who's the go-to guy in late situations. And the Clippers, I don't think, have decided that yet. So maybe the playoffs now they will, but at the moment the hot hand is definitely Paul George. He'd started one game with like 4 threes in a row, and I was like, oh my god, he's gonna have 50. He didn't in the end, but he was like just everything he looked at, he was making. So it'd be interesting to see. I think they have to sort that out pretty quickly, or else, because they're going up against the Mavs and my boy Luka, which I'll get onto later on. But big fan of Luka, and I'm hoping he's going to cause some upsets there. But you said Giannis and the Bucks. The Bucks they still look good though. Like Giannis is just unstoppable when he wants to be. I think as well, we'll take it this time now. We'll go through maybe the NBA season awards just to see if we align up on those, if you don't mind.
Sure.
We'll start obviously with the MVP. So give us your MVP there, Johnny, and I'll see if I agree or disagree.
My MVP is Giannis, and to be honest, I think the pendulum was swinging towards LeBron, and I think it was more a narrative-driven case for LeBron in terms of his age and what he is done with the Lakers, and I think he's a clear second in voting. But I think for the intensity that Giannis brings night in, night out, and it's even seen in this short portion of regular season where there's games that the Bucks don't need to win, Giannis is still going out there and putting in an intense 30 minutes a night when there's absolutely no need. He's just a competitor, and
he's headbutting people. That's how intense he is. He's literally
the Washington Wizards, the worst team in it, and Giannis is. It just sums it up, like. So Giannis is mine. I love it.
I was hoping you were going to say LeBron James there. I was going to disagree with you, but no, it's Giannis. I don't even think it's that close. Apart from assists, like Giannis leads every statistical category. If you take Giannis off the Bucks compared to if you take LeBron off the Lakers, I think there's quite the difference. And don't get me wrong, LeBron is an amazing player. I'm not a LeBron hater. I'd have him second on this list as well. But I think Giannis has just been too good this year. He's just, unfortunately for LeBron, Giannis is starting to come into his prime yet. He's not even in his prime yet, which is very scary. But he's just in that form now where LeBron was at the same age, and he's just too physically gifted, unfortunately, for the rest. Like I was watching a game, he just spins to the rim and dunks. He can do it nearly any time he wants. It's just like silly.
Incredible.
At this stage. It's just like why we even bother playing against him? It seems insane. The rookie of the year. Let's see again. What give us your top there?
I don't really think it's much of a contest because of the games played. I do think that a lot of these awards are earned on kind of consistency, and there's a certain threshold in my eyes in terms of a minimum of games played, and I think it has to be at least 56. And obviously Zion Williamson is nowhere near 56 games. Unfortunately for him, he obviously, I think, in a different world would have ran away with this, but it's Ja Morant for me.
Yeah, I agree. People saying Zion, he just hasn't played enough.
No.
If I had to pick which one I'd rather have on my team, I'd pick Zion. I think he's the better player. But Ja is a brilliant player. He's more technically, I'd say, gifted or technically better player than Zion is. But Zion's just a force of nature. There's no getting around that. So yeah, I agree with you completely there. Again, Ja should win that, but it wouldn't surprise me if Zion wins that one. I think we'll go Defensive Player of the Year. Now, this is a pretty contested one, I would say, compared to the other two. But the finalists are obviously Giannis, you have Anthony Davis, and then you have Rudy Gobert. What's your opinion on this one?
It's a tough one. I think it's a toss-up between Anthony Davis and Giannis for me, because I don't know whether it's the bias of seeing Rudy Gobert. I think he's won the last two. Was it last two defensive players?
Yeah, I think so.
I think the last two. And both Giannis and Anthony Davis have the kind of uniqueness where they will try and contest every single shot, whether it's in and around the paint or they're switched onto a guard and they're trying to stop the 3-pointer. So it's really a toss-up to me, to be honest. I could flip a coin and pick one or the other. So for the sake of it, I'll just go with Anthony Davis, but I wouldn't mind either.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Defensive Player of the Year, it's never one that excites me, unfortunately, because the defense side of the ball isn't as exciting as the offense side of the ball. But Yeah, look, I'd be happy enough to give it to Davis. He's come into the Lakers in his first season, and he really has, played extremely well. He's dominated in a lot of games. When LeBron seems to have taken a step back to allow Davis to do that. Giannis, again, he contests, as you said, he's contesting everything. He cares. Every night he's bringing 100%. So I give it to Giannis just so that we could be different on one of them.
Yeah, that's right.
The next one then is Sixth Man of the Year. Obviously, your finalists here is Montrezl Harrell from the Clippers. You've Dennis Schroeder from the OKC, and then Lou Williams, who is fastly coming up on Jamal Crawford for most Sixth Man of the Year awards at this stage. But who do you think here?
I think it's Lou Williams hasn't really had the kind of sixth man seasons of old here. I think it's kind of, again, it could be just a case of this man has won it so many times that, you have to outperform the season before, and to be considered. But I think as his teammate, Montrezl Harrell, that I've probably watched more Clippers games than Thunder games, but he seems to me more than a sixth man. I think a sixth man, the epitome of a sixth man is, it's somebody that pretty much could start on the 20 or the 29 other teams, but just in this situation it works best for him to come off the bench. And I think Lou Williams is somebody that you could describe as being that type of player the last couple of seasons. I think Montrezl Harrell as well, on this Clippers team, it just suits for him in this current rotation to come off the bench. But he's a starting caliber player, and even just watching some of the Clippers games over the last couple of weeks, the absence of him is very, very notable. The physicality that he brings to that team. So I probably give it towards him.
So that's, you're going with Montrez? Yeah, I'd agree. I think when watching these Sixers or Clippers games, sometimes they can lack energy, and I think Montrez comes on and he totally just gives you that. He just gives you energy, gives you pace, toughness. He's, in a cliche NBA way, they call him, he's a dog. You know what I mean? Like, he just loves it, loves the competition. So I'd agree with you there. I think he just brings what you want in a six man off the bench. Like, Lou Williams is a better player. Lou Williams is, much more skill of a player. But if you're down 10 and you want someone to come on just to really ramp the pace, I think Montrez is going to impact you more there than Lou, personally. Most improved player, which Ben Adebayo from the Miami Heat's on this. You got Brandon Ingram from the Pelicans and Luka Doncic from the Dallas Mavericks. Brandon Ingram and Luka Doncic shouldn't be on this, I don't think. They are already two fairly established players at this stage. They wouldn't meet my criteria for this personally, but what do you think about this?
Yeah, it was interesting because obviously Doncic reacted to it in a post-game interview and said that, or either post-game interview or could have tweeted it, but said that Devontae Graham should have taken his place, which is, the exact kind of caliber player. When you see his numbers jump up, it's made kind of historic statistical records, how he's points per game and, all the rest of it has just jumped dramatically. So, he would be in there for me if he was being nominated. But I think personally it's Bam Adebayo for his performance both ends on the floor. I really think, like you said there, it's Brandon Ingram and Luka Doncic, established players before this season. I think Ingram probably taken a bit more of a surprise jump this year than I think we all expected Doncic to progress no matter what. So Bam Adebayo, I think, is my winner because he just epitomized it. He was a bench kind of big man that, a lot of people had thought he had good potential in, but I don't think anyone expected him to be, an all-star. I don't think anybody expected him to be. I think he was an all-star, wasn't he?
I can't think of.
I'm 90% sure, but I'll check that up while you're talking. But I just think for what he's brought to that Miami Heat team, a lot of people could have argued it was just Jimmy Butler and a lot of role players on that team, but Bam Adebayo was, the clear number 2 option on that, and defensively, he has got it down so early into his career.
Yeah, I agree. I think the definition for me for this award always has been, it's someone I didn't know existed last year that I do now. That's pretty much the criteria for me. And Bam Adebayo is that player. Like, Doncic is already, like, well, to me, he's one of the best players in the league already. Ingram, I think, is fastly on. He's on that track already. I've seen a few of the games tonight, and there's a lot of Kevin Durant in him. He's long, rangy. and he's got an amazing shooting touch. So I think to be on these lists is a bit silly. So I think this one is it's Bam Adebayo. Coach of the year then. This is a really actually tightly contested one because all have done fantastic jobs. But you've Mike Budenholzer from the Bucks, you've got Billy Donovan from OKC, and then Nick Nurse from the Raptors. So interesting to hear your take on this one.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I think there was, could it have been the Players Association, or there was some sort of awards a week or two ago that gave this as a joint award to Budenholzer and Billy Donovan, and I think a lot of people felt that Nick Nurse was kind of wronged in that decision, and a lot of people are very heavy on Nick Nurse, and I can see why, because the Raptors without Kawhi Leonard have essentially put up a regular season record pretty comparable to what they did last year. And, they have a lot of new kind of assets that they've really blended into the rotation well this year. But I'd probably give to Mike Budenholzer just because, he's managing to get the number one seed in the East again. I just look at that team, and I obviously look at the Raptors and the Thunder, and I think very well coached teams, but I look at the Bucks and it's just the perfect system around Giannis, and I think it takes a really talented coach to do that, and especially looking at the likes of Brook Lopez, obviously can space the floor and give a bit more room for Giannis, but defensively this year Brook Lopez has come on leap and bounds as well. So some of the progression, I guess, of some of their players from last year to this year, and some of the bench pieces that are coming in, I think it's just an incredibly well coached team, and I'd have to give it to Mike Budenholzer.
We finally disagree on one. Thank God. I'm going with Billy Donovan. OKC are supposed to be crap this year, and they're a fifth seed or fourth seed. Sorry, they're even number 4. You already the Raptors. Don't get me wrong, losing Kawhi is obviously massive, but they still had the guts of a good team there. They won the championship last year. They still had, it's a good system. The Bucks again, they already were a good team. Don't get me wrong, they're 2 great teams now and I'm not taking that away from them, but the OKC were, they were due to miss this playoffs by a mile, and they're in the 4th seed. So I think you have to reward that personally. So that's why I've gone with them. But I'm glad we disagreed on one, though. I think it's just we're just 2 knowledgeable guys, Johnny. That's just probably
it's only natural. It's only natural.
Yeah, exactly. We could do the Skip Bayless thing and be like, Luka Doncic is the most improved player of all time, but we're not doing that. We don't do that here. We'll talk about, I think, before we get on to the playoffs, we'll talk about the play-in tournament, Blazers and Grizzlies. So you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but the Blazers just have to win 1, and the Grizzlies have to beat them twice, I think, is the way it goes, because the Blazers are the 8th seed currently, whereas the Grizzlies is 9. Okay. So if the Grizzlies win tomorrow night, they still have to win again, whereas the Blazers win tomorrow night, it's over, and the Blazers are the 8th seed. So credit the Blazers. They've won the last 10 games. They've won 7-3, so they have to be rewarded with that. Whereas the Grizzlies are 3-7 in their last 10. So the Grizzlies definitely limping home there in the last couple of games. But who do you fancy in that then? Do you fancy the Blazers to just be too much?
Yeah, I've kind of watched more Portland than I have the Grizzlies, only because I kind of expected the Grizzlies to kind of sail into that, kind of hold on to that 8th seed, just given there were a couple of games ahead of the next place team, but they really haven't had a great stretch now in the last bit of the regular season. I don't think Ja Morant has been fantastic. I think we've seen the likes of Jaren Jackson Jr. and Dylan Brooks really step up on their end of things, but it's really hard to look away from Portland at this stage, especially when you mentioned the stipulations that the Grizzlies have to win 2 of those games, and Portland, obviously have to win 1. At the rate that Damian Lillard's going, because when Damian Lillard is going as he is, he's double teamed, and rightfully so. You have to try and stop him, but that opens up the options for Yusuf Nurkic. It opens up the shooting for CJ McCollum, and Gary Trent Jr. as well. I think he's averaging the second most 3 points made in the bubble at the moment, which is crazy, because Gary Trent Jr. is a player I don't think I'd even heard of before the bubble
he's
happened.
Candidate for most improved next year if we keep continuing on this.
If there was a bubble most improved, he'd be definitely in there.
Exactly.
So you can't look away from Portland in my eyes, especially with the way Damian Lillard's playing, the leadership he's shown on that team. It just seems like the Grizzlies are too young and too inexperienced to go up against a team like Portland. Well, what do you think? Who do you have?
Yeah, I can't believe you mentioned the Portland Trailblazers and you didn't mention Melo. Come on, man.
Melo's about the
back.
fifth or sixth
He's
option on
back.
that team.
He's back, baby. He's back. I'm wearing my Knicks t-shirt and everything for him.
Hey.
Yeah, I agree. I think they've been fantastic to watch. I really have enjoyed watching them. They have so many options. That Nurkic coming back has just been massive for them. He's been really good. Like, he looks in great shape. He looks interested. He looks competitive. He looks like he wants to get stuck in. So I think if you have Carmelo Anthony as your fourth or fifth option, then my God, you're not in a bad position. You know what I mean? I'm not the biggest Carmelo Anthony fan overall. I think his career has been a tad overrated in some areas, but the man can shoot the ball if he needs to shoot. If he's in a position to shoot the ball. CJ McCollum gets so overlooked as well. Like, he's rarely gets a shot blocked. He seems to always find space. I think they have a really good chance. Well, I think they're going to dispatch Grizzlies in one. They'll go up against the Lakers. I think they could cause them serious trouble. But we'll start with the Eastern Conference in the playoffs. We'll get to the West in the first. So obviously we have the Bucks versus the Magic at the moment. There is some games left today. So if anything changes, I don't think this will. But if anything does change, this definitely won't change because Washington are stinky poo-poo as a team. So this is definitely locked in. But I think the big question here for Orlando is, how do you stop Giannis? Who's going to do that?
I mean, I'm trying to think. Like, it's
I know it's impossible.
It's looking like, arguably you're probably going to have Nikola Vucevic on him, and Vucevic is not really known for his defensiveness. No. He's kind of well-rounded player, Vucevic, but you're going to have Vucevic on him. You're going to have Aaron Gordon on him, who was improved defensively this year. It's safe to say, but that Magic team, I think, are just too underprepared for a team as well coached as the Bucks, and there's really not much. I think there's a clean sweep for me. Although, having said that, let's not forget the Magic and Raptors series of last year when we had the DJ Augustine game. Where they took a game off them and shocked the world.
And he's been good again. He's been good this year. He's been really, sprightly. But I think the Magic need a big series from Aaron Gordon. They go as far as he goes, basically. And there's no doubting him on the offensive side, as you said. He can have some good games, but it's how do you slow down?
No Jonathan Isaac.
Yeah, exactly. It's a big body you can throw at. A lot of it is just trying to get in Giannis's way. To try and slow him down if he wants to kick it out. But then the problem is when he does pass, he's got Chris Middleton, he's got Kyle Korver, Eric Bledsoe, Lopez. They're all, they can all shoot the ball, which is what you want around a player like Giannis. And I agree. I think this is probably the easiest series of the entire first round. I think this is a sweep as well.
Absolutely.
But who knows? You prove us wrong, Orlando. Prove us wrong. The next one then is Raptors Nets, so 2-7 seed. And I think we've already touched on it, but the Raptors, what a surprise this has been. Like, I know they lost only one player, but that player was Kawhi Leonard after winning the championship last year. I don't think anyone expected them to do this. I think everyone expected them to be making the playoffs, but more of a, look, we won last year. We're just happy enough to kind of see this season out kind of thing. We're still a little bit hungover basically from last year. But incredible. Like, Pascal Siakam has just taken another leap again, averaging 23 points, 8 rebounds. That's Kawhi numbers basically from last year, not far off them if not anything else. So credit to him. And then Lowry, Kyle Lowry's a great leader for this team, and some big moments last year in the playoffs, and who's to say he won't replicate the same again this year?
Sorry, you're still there?
Oh yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, you're back.
Hey there, yeah.
Well, yeah. Sorry, you've frozen on me there for a bit there. So.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Where did I drop you off?
You were just finishing it, kind of chat about the Raptors.
Do you know whereabouts or what did I say
No,
last?
I don't know what to say last. I could just pick it up from just chatting about the Raptors, Brooklyn. Like, did you speak about the Nets yet, or
no?
No. Okay. Yeah. Well,
What I'll do is I'll start my Raptor stuff over again because it'll just be easier for me to cut the whole thing out.
Yeah. Do. Yeah.
Okay. Is the connection okay now?
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, like the Raptors again, like they've totally surprised me this year. No one expected them. You know, after losing Kawhi last year, I know it's only one player, but you know, arguably one of the best player in the league last year. To lose him, they needed someone else to step up and kind of give that production, and that was Pascal Siakam this year. You know, averaging 23 points and 8 rebounds. That's Kawhi numbers. You still have Kyle Lowry, who's the leader of this team and had some big playoff moments last year, and who's to say he won't replicate that this year again. Have you been? I'm sure, like you were surprised just how good they are this year.
It was something I called last year, and I don't often backtrack on my words because most of the time I get it wrong. But I really did feel the Raptors would be good this year, and I know losing Kawhi was a big thing for them, especially in playoff matches. But I think regular season they kept the core of what they had last year, which was a championship-winning team. And under Nick Nurse, obviously there was some question marks in terms of their bench rotation and who they were going to draft. But some players have really stepped up for them, like Chris Boucher is a great presence in the paint and has been a great rotation player for them. The return of OG Anunoby, who they didn't have last year, who obviously showed a great promise in his rookie season, has been a really important player for them this year. And obviously the offense general of Kyle Lowry and, as you mentioned, Pascal Siakam kind of taking the lead guy role. But I think that this whole season nearly is the player that stood out for me is Fred VanVleet. Because when it mattered most against the Golden State Warriors in the finals last year, was Fred VanVleet that was sinking the 3-pointers, and I haven't really forgotten that. And he's kind of gone from a sixth man of the year kind of candidate for last year to a really effective starting shooting guard there, and I think he averages some of the most minutes out of anyone in the league. So I'm been really impressed with his play, his 3-point shooting, and yeah, I think it's to credit to Nick Nurse and obviously to the system that he's created. But I will put my hand up and say I wasn't surprised to see him do so well this year.
Yeah, no, I definitely was. I thought they'd make the playoffs and all that, but I didn't see this. I didn't see this coming just because of. Mm-hmm. There's always a hangover after winning the trophy or winning the championship, and after losing then your best player, it's even tougher. So, but the Nets then as well. The Nets have also surprised me because the Nets are missing, just Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Nothing major. Even DeAndre Jordan. Just these kind of players, and they're still competitive. Like Chris LeVert has just become star in the making. Like he's ready to make a leap, I think. And like even last night against the Blazers, he had 37 points. And like I was watching the highlights of it, and it's not your Lillard pulling up from 40 feet. It's not your Steph Curry kind of it's not amazing highlights. It's just simple basketball where he's going to the rim and he's like herky jerky kind of movements, but it works. And can you imagine this team with a Kevin Durant and a Kyrie Irving? This is an Eastern Conference contending team with those players. So they're going to give the Raptors trouble, but I think overall the Raptors just have a bit too much. And I think they're too much of a unit, the synergy and all that of just playing together for so long with that good system. I think they're just going to have too much for the Nets. But I'd say I'm going to go 4-1. I think the Nets will take a game off them.
I'm in agreement. I've actually kind of pre-written down my how I think the series will go, and I've written down 4-1 as well. And I think you mentioned there the Phoenix Suns, arguably the best team or the surprise team in the bubble. It's been the Brooklyn Nets for me because I was just fascinated that this team was able to stay somehow intact without Kyrie Irving. You mentioned Kevin Durant. Not forget, obviously, Spencer Dinwiddie as well, who would probably, outside of Karis LeVert, is their best player, best option, and also Taurean Prince and DeAndre Jordan. So, that's the guts of what could be probably their starting lineup. Just gone before they even come to Orlando. And some of these players I never heard of, like Chris Chiozza, who's been playing the point guard for them. Been impressed with him. Dante Hall, who's squared up to I think he's squared up to Giannis at one stage. That's typical Giannis though.
Giannis just an angry guy. I don't know what it is.
Don't want to pick a fight with him. But Timothy Luau, Timothy Luau Cabarro as well. Just an absolute role player, 12th man in the rotation of most teams, and he's been really impressive in the bubble. So I just credit to the Brooklyn Nets coach, and I've been so surprised they've even been able to hang in games, but they've even given teams really tough games, and for us to even think they're going to take a game off Toronto, I think is a credit to what they've done in the bubble. So fair play to them.
Yeah, the names you listed there for that team are the generic names on NBA 2K games. It's basically what you do. If you had told me that a few months ago, I would have been like, yeah, that's just generic names. But no, they are starting NBA players for the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. Next one would have been a really good series, I think. And it still might be, but it's obviously Celtics and 76ers obviously taking a massive hit as Ben Simmons is out. But an interesting little storyline now is if the Sixers do well without him, they need to trade him. They have to, because it's not working with Embiid and him. It's just not. They're just, unfortunately, Simmons. I like Simmons. I think he's a really good player, but he just can't shoot, and that's tough to play with then as if you're a big man as well, because the pain is packed. But I think it's a nice little storyline there. Will start to emerge if the Sixers even win 2 games. Or possibly even 3, then the Sixers have to make moves. But I was watching Embiid there recently. It was actually against the Wizards, so take that with a pinch of salt. But the Wizards were up, and the Wizards had the momentum, and there were a few points up, and Embiid came in the fourth quarter and just shut it down. He was really impressive, and I'm not the biggest fan of Embiid. He spends way too much time on the floor for a big man than he should. He just seems to be always falling down, which I don't know what that is about, but he just came in, he got to where he wanted to on the floor, he made some big shots, he just changed the whole the aspect of the game, and then the Sixers went on to win a big game. Not a big game, but if you're losing to the Washington Wizards, that's a bad loss, and Embiid just totally changed that. So what's your kind of predictions for this series?
Yeah, as a Boston Celtics fan now, I'm pretty happy that Ben Simmons is out.
Yes, definitely.
I'm a bit disappointed in another way, because I think it would have been a great test for them, really to see a full strength 76ers team against Boston. But, it's just a pity when you see a player of that caliber miss out. And obviously, I think you put it well there that it's going to be a real test to see if the 76ers can survive without Ben Simmons, and if they do, there will be a lot of talk about trading him, because this was a team and a roster and a starting 5 that I think a lot of people would have thought would win out the East this year, and they've been far from that. They've really, really underperformed, and they just have that weird energy about them that on any given night they can win a game, because they just have such a strong starting 5. But now they are going to move Al Horford into the starting rotation, and Horford hasn't played that well with Embiid, but what Horford does do is space the floor better than Ben Simmons, and he can shoot the 3, and I know that from being a Boston Celtics fan.
Yeah, exactly.
So at least that opens up something for Embiid, and they now have Shake Milton at the point guard, who has been an important asset for them in terms of shooting the 3 as well. Just more guys that can space the floor. But ultimately, when you think of Boston, you just see how well-rounded they are. Both ends of the floor. Defensively, they've been very good this season. Offensively, Jason Tatum has taken a huge leap, and is clearly the number one option on this team, despite being on a team with the likes of Gordon Hayward and Kemba Walker. So as long as Kemba Walker stays healthy, as long as they can kind of narrow down the rotation to 7 or 8 core players, because I think they've kind of experimenting with bringing on certain players in certain positions. Once they can figure that out, I think it's Boston's series to lose. So I have them winning 4-2.
Yeah, I think what you said there, were the Sixers were the same energy where they can win any game any given night. It's the same energy that they can have an absolute implosion as well, where they could be up 15 and then totally just self-explode, and then that's it, game over. So I agree. I think it's going to be 4-1. I think Embiid's going to, unless Embiid goes crazy in the series, which is possible, he has that potential, but I just can't see them stringing 4 quarters together regularly enough that they actually take games. I think, the Celtics, as you said, they're consistent. They're not going to make too many mistakes. They're just a well-rounded basketball team. They're going to put together four quarters regularly, where I don't think the Sixers will. So I think they're going to be 4-1. Tight enough for some games, but 4-1 all the same. Next, we have Heat versus Pacers, a.k.a. the Jimmy Buckets versus TJ Warren show. Let's be honest, who else really cares about this series if it wasn't for them too? TJ Warren, where did this come from? This is just ridiculous. This is one of the things with the bubble. This Heat's hot streak wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for bubble. There's no way TJ Warren is doing this, I don't think, without these different scenarios. I think he definitely benefits from the lack of crowd. He benefits from the fact that these arenas are basically practice gyms instead of actually proper arenas. It's just madness, but I don't know. Give us your kind of in depth. What do you think about this series?
I actually think this is my favorite series.
Really?
Yeah, this is my favorite season.
For competitiveness or what?
I think it'll be a close series. I do favor the Heat, but I just think it's a pretty even matchup. And, a lot of people, I think, have given up on the Pacers once Domantas Sabonis left the bubble or wasn't going to participate in it. And I think they're right to think that in ways, but, they've got that kind of dog in them with the likes of TJ Warren and the performances he's shown. I agree. I think it's a bit of a streak more so than a long-term thing to think, TJ Warren's going to be a 30 points per night player. I don't think anyone's thinking that. But
TJ Warren
on the
TJ Warren
and that's not a bad thing. I mean, as
that's
long as
all
he
that matters.
does.
Yeah.
But I've been really impressed with the Heat in the bubble and their depth, and I think they're a fantastic 3-point shooting team with Duncan Robinson, who I didn't watch much of the Heat during the regular season. Didn't really think that it was going to be their year, but I kind of have a dark horse in the East and the West, and the Miami Heat are my dark horse in the East from what I saw from them, because they're really well coached. They're really, really good defensively. A lot of young talent, but a good mix of young talent and veterans, because you have, obviously, as I mentioned, the Tyler Heroes, Duncan Robinsons, Bam Adebayo's on one end, a Kendrick Nunn as well. And then you have the more experienced, the likes of Jay Crowder, Goran Dragic, and Andre Iguodala, who have, the playoff experience. So I really think they can beat any team in the Eastern Conference on any given night, and I genuinely mean that. And I think this series in particular, they might lose a game or two, so I'd probably have them winning 4-2. But I just really like this series because we're getting to see playoff Jimmy Butler, and if last year's anything to go by, he ran the Raptors as close as anyone. So
yeah, I'm not as high as you are on the Heat. I think I just think that I don't think any other team fears them like they would when it comes to a Bucks or a Toronto or even a Boston. I don't know why. I just feel like that. But you're right. Jimmy Butler, I'm not his biggest fan, especially when it comes to off the court stuff. But no one denies that he does love a big moment, and he does seem to play his best stuff when it counts the most. So, and I agree with the Pacers that it should be a competitive series, but I'll say this will go to 7 games. Sure, why not? I have no real dog in this fight. I don't particularly like any of the players or anything like that. So I'll go with 7 games in this. But I think the Heat just have a little bit. Yeah, I think they have a little bit too much for the Pacers. But after this round, I think that their race will be run. But look at you can come on the podcast and gloat if they do go on to do great things. So that's just a recap of the East. I think we agreed on all the 4 series. I think we have the Bucks obviously pretty much dismantling the Magic fairly easily. Raptors to beat the Nets. I said 4-1. I think you agreed, didn't you? 4-1. Celtics Sixers. I said 4-1. I think you said 4-2 in favor of the Celtics. And then Heat Pacers. I've said it's going all the way to the magical. The best 2 words in sports. Game 7. And you're happy with the Heat 4-2. I think you said.
Yeah, 4-2.
Move on to the West, which I think is definitely the more exciting side of the conferences when it comes to the playoff matchups and the actual teams involved. And obviously the first matchup will obviously be the Lakers versus either the Blazers, the Grizzlies. I think we both agree that we assume it's going to be the Blazers, because of the fact that they have to only win one game. But this is, if it is Lakers Blazers, which I hope it is going to be an exciting game, an exciting series, just because of you've got so much firepower both sides of the ball. Like the Lakers before the bubble, like when the actual regular season, they looked amazing. The bubble, obviously, they're taking a step back, but LeBron leading the league in assists for the first time. But AD, I did some stats looking up there. So this is the categories where Anthony Davis leads LeBron in the regular season. So he's got obviously more points per game. He's got a better field goal percentage overall. He shoots more free throws. He makes more free throws at a better percentage. He's got more rebounds, more steals, and more blocks. So that obviously isn't that's normal for Anthony Davis, but not when LeBron James is on the team. LeBron definitely has taken a step back in probably, in the thought of let's preserve the body, which is totally understandable. But that's why another reason why I didn't think the MVP case was real for LeBron, because of that. Like, LeBron arguably wasn't the best player on his team this year. If you go by stats, I think he was, and he is by far the better player. But when it comes to MVP awards, I think that's what really has gone against them. But there's no doubt about the Lakers. They're not as stacked as, say, Clippers are, but there's no doubt about they are top heavy when it comes to, you've got Anthony Davis, you've got LeBron James, you've got all these really good role players. I know, like Dion Waiters and J.R. Smith, but again, the benefits of having players like that is that they think they're the best player on the court, and that then it does lead to making good shots. You've got Danny Green, who's a fantastic role player. The Caruso, which I'm a big fan of, Alex Caruso, love him. But again, he's an impact player off the bench. He does bring speed. He brings energy. He can make shots. He can, we love the highlights of the putback dunks, but plays like that are what energizes a team if they are down, say, 8 or 9 points. So seeing someone like that make a great play, it will energize them. Even LeBron, you see him on the bench when he makes those plays, he gets hyped for them. So you do need those players, and obviously when you have LeBron and AD, you can afford to have these sort of small role players around them. The Blazers, as I said, I think they have enough firepower to cause them real trouble, and this one I think will go 6, but I think the Lakers will win 4-2.
4-2. Interesting. Yeah. If I'm a Lakers fan, I think I would be very happy to have the Portland Trail Blazers as a matchup in the first round, because from what I've seen from the Lakers in this kind of in the bubble, I feel like they've lacked a bit of firepower, and I think they've been a bit defensively disorganized. I think we haven't seen, obviously we mentioned the best of LeBron, and I think they need a bit of a wake up call. And I think if they were to go out against Portland, the team that's streaking at the moment on form, and lose game 1, I think that would be the best thing to happen to the Lakers, because I think I think maybe it's a case of the whole LA, a lot of people buying into the hype of, them being a Laker and all that, because that roster's, it's fair to say they've done a really good job this year of kind of ego management with the likes of LeBron, AD, Dwight Howard, who's, taken very well to being a role player for one of the first times in his career. But I think their attitude and stuff on the court, their body language isn't good. And I think it's a little bit worrying, but again, it's the bubble. And as you mentioned, players like LeBron can really switch it on and off in terms of their intensity and playing in these games. So, I think that would be the best thing to happen to the Lakers. And I do think the Lakers would win ultimately, but I think it would be a great test for them. And it would make them, I guess, but kind of realize the kind of competition they're up against in this Western Conference, because 1 through 8 for the Clippers and Lakers to get the first and second seed and to draw the Mavericks and Portland are, if we have them winning, that's a tough 7 and 8 seed. If you compare that to Brooklyn and Orlando in the East, different ball game, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. What's your prediction then for the series?
I'd probably have them win 1 game. I'd have a 4-1.
Okay, that's fair enough. Yeah, it could be a sweep if the Lakers just switch it on, which they possibly might. The one thing about LeBron taking a step back is he's probably the most rested he's ever been in his career. So that's a scary thought if you're a Portland Trail Blazers fan. The next series, it's Clippers versus Mavs. It's Luka time. I'm all in. I'm buying everyone's Luka Doncic stock. I want all of it. I'm in. He's the best, one of the best. I made a list of players that I would take over him at the moment in the league, and it's LeBron, it's AD, it's Kawhi, it's Steph, and I think that's about it. KD.
Giannis. Obviously, Giannis as well.
Oh, Giannis as well. Sorry, so about 6 players in total. That's it, though. Get out of here with your James Hardens. Get out of here with your Russell Westbrooks. I don't want any of it. Give me Luka all day, every day. I love him. He's fantastic. He's averaging 29 points, 9 rebounds, and 9 assists, and he's like 21. Is he 21 yet? Even possibly 22. Yeah. 21 years old. The Mavs had the best offensive rating in the league going into the bubble. And he's only shooting like 31% from 3. That can improve. Like he's shooting plenty of free throws. He's getting to the line whenever he wants. Porzingis is a really nice second guy for him because he can space the floor for him, but he's also, can shoot the 3, can post up if he needs to. Seth Curry's on that team. He can hit big shots if he wants. Boban is really tall, which is great. I'm sure that's going to be beneficial in some ways. But I love this matchup. I think the Clippers are in trouble here. I think this could be a possible 7-game series if the Mavs get it right. It's going at least 6 games, I think. And I'm all in. I'm on the Mavs train. Why not? Am I mad?
I'm not, I guess, as convinced by the Mavs, I'd say, as yourself. And I do see, I won't be too surprised if this goes to 6 or 7 games because, I think you're right in saying you need to buy up all this Luka Doncic stock before it goes because this is a future MVP. I think we have, especially from what we've seen this year and in the bubble as well, played really well. Kristaps Porzingis as well has had a really good bubble. He's put up averaging 30 points a game, which is very good numbers for him, and he's really come back after his horrific injury as a New York Knicks. So. To be honest, the reason why I don't see this going more than 5 games is because I just think that the Mavericks, out of all the teams in the Western Conference, have the least depth. Because I look at the rest of that roster and I look at, Trey Burke, Dorian Finney-Smith, Seth Curry, JJ Barea. These are players that, would struggle to get in other rotations, I think, some of them anyway. And I think, lo and behold, it's all about your stars in the playoffs and how they step up. But I just think if they can get Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell to really run that pick and roll and run that second unit in the playoffs, I think they're going to run rampant on whatever second unit the Mavericks put out there. And I think that could be the difference in these games. So I could see a really big Luka Doncic night taking 1 game, if not 2. But I think the Clippers are going to run away with this in 5. 4-1 for me.
I see all your logical points and your factual base points, but I raise you Luka. So I'm all in. I'm going to be backing the Mavs. I'm going to be all over Twitter spamming the Mavs. I'm all in for this series. Let's go, Luka, baby. Love it. So we disagree there quite substantially. Yeah. The next series is up here with the Heat and the Pacers for me, the Nuggets and the Jazz. It's just sort of meh. And this is more a reflection on me as an NBA fan because this is a really tight series that could go either way. But I don't know. It's when your best players are big men, I just struggle to kind of get going with it. And like Donovan Mitchell, obviously the Jazz is probably their best player, but he's not. He's been up and down, and he hasn't really. Mitchell hasn't really taken that step that we thought he would from his first year. He was so good, and he just sort of. It's not that he's gotten worse. He's just plateaued a bit, and it's not what I was expecting. I don't know if it was what you were expecting, but. When it comes to a series like this where it's so nip and tuck, I tend to look at who's got the best player on the court. And to me, that's Nikola Jokic, and it's not that close either. He's come back. He's in fantastic shape. He's lean. And, he's 20 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists. The big number there is 7 assists from the center. The first game they played, they ran him from the point guard, which was just the Nuggets had 5 players on the court. I think 4 of them were over 7 foot. It was amazing. It was fantastic to watch, and he can do it because he's that good. He's the typical amazing European player. He's just comes over and he's just got all the skills. So for me, like the Jazz are good. Don't get me wrong. Mitchell obviously is leading them, but Bojan Bogdanovic with a sneaky 20 points a game is obviously a nice little second offensive option for them. And Gobert on the Gobert on the defensive side is going to be it's going to be an issue. But I feel like he'll be so concerned with Jokic that it might take him away from stopping maybe other people's shots or stopping other people coming into the paint as much. So I'm going to go with Denver, but this is a pick 'em for me. I'm not quite sure. What do you think?
This is my first 7-game series. I think I just think that the Nuggets are the epitome of a 7-game series team in terms of. I think they're really missing Gary Harris on the defensive end to defend the better guards on the other teams, because that's what I've noticed is that, when they're up against really talented guards, they don't really have the type of players to really keep up with the speed of them. They're a slow team in my eyes, especially Jokic really slows down their offense, and that's just how he works. It's effective for them. It works. So, they're keeping it going, obviously. But against the likes of Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell, a 1-2 combination that's going to cause them trouble. You would hope that Gary Harris will return from injury. I think Mike Malone was saying it's kind of day-to-day evaluation on him and Will Barton as to whether they'll come back, but they'll be important players to kind of come in. But having said that, I think this series is all about Michael Porter Jr. I think he has been incredible so far in the bubble, and has clearly shown that he's probably the number 2 option on that team, which is mad to think when he was pretty much just a rotation player getting the minutes and the experience in before the bubble. And now, I think he's up there, could lead the team in terms of points per game in the bubble. So it just depends on the matchups for him. If Jokic can cause enough trouble to give Michael Porter Jr. space to take over the game, I think they'll nearly have to put the ball in his hands, because Rudy Gobert is obviously going to be a good defensive foil for Jokic's offensive game. So that's going to be a fascinating matchup. We'll see who gets put on Michael Porter Jr. The more I talk about it, the more I kind of likening the series, even though I can see where you're coming from in terms of in the West and the East, it's probably one of the least exciting matchups. But I have this going 7 games in favor of Denver if they get Gary Harris back and kind of lock down Donovan Mitchell offensively, because I think he's the real kind of X factor in this series. If he can really turn it up and provide for Utah, I think they'll be within a shout. But if he doesn't show up and take that leap that we've seen in previous playoff games, then I think it's Denver's to win. So 4-3 Denver for me.
Yeah, it's a good point about Michael Porter Jr. as well. Like, there's no doubting his talent and physical abilities. It's just where he can obviously come into the draft. There was injury worries that people were a bit low on him. That's why he went probably so late in the draft as he did. But if he can stay injury free, he's going to be one of those players that we look back a bit like Giannis, being like, why did he go so late in the draft? The last series then is probably the best storylines series of the whole thing, because you've got the Rockets versus OKC, like the story with CP3, kind of revenge series on the Rockets. You've got Russell Westbrook returning like a play against OKC. The fact that OKC are in this position is just incredible. As we said earlier on, no one gave them a chance this year, and it's nice to see. I was always a big Chris Paul fan from when I first started following NBA, but I felt like he became a bit of an old angry man in the end of the Clippers, and then with the Houston, he just didn't seem to be enjoying his basketball, and that seems to have changed now. He's a new lease of life basically with this team, because it's full of young guys. It seems to be like, obviously he's the focal point. Everyone runs through him, which he's happy about, and he gets to bark people around. That's when he's at his happiest. But he's definitely, it's great to see him like that, because you couldn't say that he was enjoying life when it came to the Clippers and the Rockets, especially towards the end of the Clippers. And it's just great to see that as a Chris Paul fan. I just wanted to give you Harden's averages for the year so far, Johnny. So it's 34 points. He makes 4 3-pointers a game at 35%. He's 7 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steal attempts. He attempts 12 free throws a game. And do you know what? I wouldn't want him near my team, anywhere near it, in fact. I do not like James Harden. I think he is the epitome of great in the regular season, but when it comes to, push comes to shove, he does not perform. And we've had years of this now. We've had the infamous Rockets Clippers series years ago where Chris Paul was involved, actually, where the Rockets came back and totally upset it. Harden was on the bench for that. He is bad stigma. He's bad news. He's a bad smell around the team. I don't like him. I don't like Russell Westbrook either. I think he's the exact same player. Their style of play and what they do does not lend itself to winning in playoffs. We've seen it before. We'll see it again. I do not like Houston. I don't like the way they play. I'm out in the team, and I'm backing OKC to win this one. Did I go too hard on Harden?
No, I don't think so, because he's a polarizing player. There's no one really else in the league like him in terms of his usage, in terms of just, it's a polarizing team, I suppose you could say. Just they've gone just deep into this small ball. They don't have a center on the roster. They've gone with the likes of Robert Covington and PJ Tucker at the 5, and a lot of kind of taller wing players. And unfortunately for the Rockets, it looks like Russell Westbrook will be out 2 or 3 games of this series, which it has advantage OKC. A lot of people might have had OKC even without Russell Westbrook, or even with Russell Westbrook, but without him, the load's going to be even more placed on Harden. His efficiency will be there. I see where you're coming from, Harden. I think Harden, a bit of credit has to be given to him defensively, because I think he's really improved defensively. I've seen some bubble games and I've seen him guard bigger players and actually do a pretty decent job on them. But having said that, if he's going to be carrying this load offensively, you can't really expect any sort of defensive effort from Harden, because unfortunately that's not how it works. So, the whole small ball thing with Steven Adams on the other end of the floor and his rebounding rate, I'm looking at, aside from Harden and Westbrook, there's only one other player in that Rockets team that averages more than 5 rebounds a game, and that's worrying. So I feel like OKC are going to dominate them on the glass. Chris Paul, you mentioned there, playing some of the best basketball in his career, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, a really good second guard to have there. And I've just going 7. I do think the Rockets will push them close, especially when Westbrook comes back. I've maybe OKC winning the early games, but I'd probably have the Thunder winning the series as well, 4-3.
Yeah, and the reason I dislike Harden that so much, it's not even the Houston style of play. It's not fun to watch, don't get me wrong, but I don't mind the small ball thing, and I'm all for trying something new and all that. When I look at, because I don't have a team, I don't support a certain team. Well, I support Mavs now, but no, I'm joking. But that is because I follow players who I love watching play, and I love players who make their teammates better. And that's why I'm big on Luka. Luka makes the Mavericks better across the board. LeBron was always amazing at that as well. Great players do that. No one benefits from playing with Harden. I don't think anyone benefits from playing with Westbrook. In fact, it took away, as we've seen, from KD. I think we all agree KD should have won more than one MVP. It's amazing that he did win one, but Westbrook was out half that year. This stuff of the stats are amazing and the triple doubles and all that, it's great, but it doesn't lend itself to anything when it comes to push comes to shove, because teams, if you're playing the Rockets a few games in a row, let Harden get his 35 points. It doesn't make a difference, because no one else on the team is, as you said there, but no one's averaging more than 5 rebounds apart from the 2 boys, or one player is. That's because feckin' Westbrook is rushing in from 40 yards to try and steal them. It's just, I don't like it, and I never have. I think they're overrated players. The Thunder was definitely held back by Westbrook for years because of, it was so obvious as well. There'd been a game and it'd be the last few seconds and he'd just pull up from 30 feet and try and hit a 3-pointer, and he's not a good 3-point shooter. He has never been and never will be. And it's just such blatant obviousness that these things are just not working, and yet we praise Harden to be one of the best players in the league, and statistically he is. But like I said, if I was a fan of a team, I wouldn't want him anywhere near my team personally. But I felt very strongly about this, Johnny, as you can tell, and I've been waiting to get on a podcast to talk about it.
Absolutely,
yeah. I think. Well, yeah, I forgot nearly about the fact that Westbrook could be missing a few games, so that's going to be massive. So I think OKC are going to win this in. I'm going to go with 6, but Harden's probably going to average 38 points a game. or something ridiculous, and it won't make a difference. So I'm going to go 4-2 OKC. I hope they do, because it'd be great to see them get through to the next round, because like I said, no one expected them to be here, and it's exactly what they deserve coming into this. I think, again, if this wasn't in the bubble, it would be even better for OKC, because of the fact that they would have had home advantage in that. So the Rockets are, benefiting in that sense, that they don't have to go to OKC, because OKC is a good crowd. It's intimidating, but that's obviously not going to be the case in Orlando. But that's our Western Conference, Johnny. We'll do just a quick recap as well, just in case anyone wants to hear them. So Lakers, Blazers. I think I said 4. I think I said 4-1. I can't remember if I said 4-1 or 4-2 now.
4-2, I think. I think you had 4-2 and I had 4-1.
Okay, that was it. Sorry, yeah. If it's the Grizzlies, I have the Lakers sweeping them. Personally, I just don't think they have enough firepower. The next then was obviously Clippers Mavs. I've got the Mavs in 7. I'm going to switch that now. The Mavs in 7. I think you had a disrespectful 4-1 towards the Clippers. Disrespectful to my boy Luka. So I'm gonna when you get back, we'll get you back on for the second round, and I'm gonna shove that in your face. Nuggets Jazz. I think we both agree this is going to be a 7-game series.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think Denver just going to sneak it. I think 4-3. And Rockets OKC. I'm going to go with the Thunder in 6. I think you said Thunder in 7.
7. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Johnny, that's great. Fantastic. Appreciate you coming on as always. We'll try and get you back on for the second round if you'd be up for it.
Absolutely.
And we can see who was wrong and who was right. Probably you're going to be right and I'm going to be wrong. But, you don't. It's NBA, analysts. You don't need to be right. You just need to be, loud and brash about it. So
you just need the ability to be able to destroy all of this audio footage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I own the audio footage, so it's all
there you go.
This will cease to exist if the Clippers sweep the Mavs. This won't be going up. Johnny, thanks very much. We'll give socials. Obviously, follow the page on Twitter, guys, at @none_podcast. Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube is all Master of None. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, guys, because we are putting up quite a lot of snippets now, and I'm enjoying making the YouTube videos as well. So, Johnny, do you want to plug your own socials for yourself, or are you happy enough to?
I think I'll probably get back into writing now once the playoffs hit out, because I have watched a lot of basketball in the last week or two. So yeah, I will be posting articles over on atlanticsports.ie hopefully over the next couple of weeks. I feel like I've gone through a bit of a creative block just given the pandemic and everything that we've gone through. So no credit given to you for keeping the podcast going with your coverage of the Super Rugby.
Thank God for rugby, man, or else it would have been dead, man.
And Formula One, I see as well. Me tweeting about that as well. So
I'd love to do a Formula One podcast, but I don't know too many people that are into it. And I don't.
My brother's a massive Formula One fan, so I'll put you in touch with him.
We might have to hook something up with that, because I don't think anyone wants to hear me ramble on about F1 on my own. So, but yeah, definitely, and more NBA now coming up as well, which is great, and then hopefully some NFL soon as well.
Absolutely.
That's great. Well, Johnny, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll chat to you soon.
No problem. Thanks for having me.